intro. Respect to my Guru astrologers and all my fellow astrologers. I have been asked to give a broad brush picture of astrology, taking from the initial stages to the modern day, how do we actually use it. So let me take you back into the history. So once upon a time, long ago, there used to be our ancestors, our rishis who used to see different omens. Omens is like Shakun, Apshakun, So for example, a crow making a lot of noise, so they expect a guest. A cat crossing your path, that means you think that there is a bad omen, you are not going to get the success. Things like that. Similarly, after a hard day's work, when they are sleeping outside, they used to look at the stars and looking at the sky. The marvel of the scenario. They were keen observers and they noticed the movement of these planets over the long periods, and they could understand that there is some pattern in them. And while observing those patterns, if they found something happening on the earth, for example, heavy rains, floods, earthquake, they saw like what was the pattern, and that is how they could correlate. And that was the genesis of astrology. And these things, they have put it in the shape of certain rules and procedures. And that has come down to us over the years. Also, those days, the village astrologer fully understood the societal system of the village. What are the kinds of system prevailing, the type of culture, and with the knowledge of this astrology, they could very well predict. So much so, for example, in the month of December, January, by looking at the moisture in the air, they could predict how is going to be the rainfall in June, July, August. And based on that, they could tell that, okay, this is the crop to be sown. So, today what has happened is, the life has become very complicated. Now, many times people come to astrologers because they are not able to take a decision in a complex situation. So, they want somebody to tell them, what will be good for them. And here what happens, because of the faith they have in astrology, we will have to see that we need to guide them well. Now, my own exposure to astrology has been when I was reading magazines, weekly magazines, monthly magazines. You have the horoscope for the week, horoscope for the month. And when reading that, what I noticed is, it is very nicely worded English language, very ambiguous. It is true for any one of those. When I studied astrology, I realized that all these predictions are based on either sun sign or moon sign. So what will happen is, only one sign where the sun or moon is there, your predictions are going to be right only for that sign. All others is going to be very general, ambiguous statements. Now, this also has led to a lot of people not having so much faith in astrology. Now, with all this background, now coming to the current context where I have been asked to speak is, how can we improve the predictions in astrology? So, for improving the predictions, our basic document is the horoscope or the birth chart, and we have to begin with that. Now, there are a lot of issues with the birth chart, time of birth, the positioning of the planets, how it has been computed. So just like an architect, the building drawing he has given it to us, and if there are any faults with that, how can we expect the building to be properly constructed? So my first suggestion, or the first tip in terms of a good prediction is, we must do birth time rectification. That is, mathematically, we have some tools, even in a simple way. For example, that natives, important events in the life, for example, birth of a child, first job, education, you correlate with that chart and see that, does it fall in line, or is there going to be some differences? So first and foremost thing is birth time rectification, which I think is a very important step, which many of the astrologers don't really look at. Many of them just go by the thumb rule, saying that, okay, if Brihaspati is here and this is the, this is what is going to be the outcome. Now, after birth time rectification, there are a few other things. For example, you all are familiar that our mind to go up. In all this, in astrology, you understand there are two important elements because of which the predictions are made. One is this theory of, the astrology itself, and the other is all our karmic theory, karma theory. That is, prarabdha, sanchit, agami karmas. But a lot of the things, when there was a question asked when I was teaching astrology in a class that if two children are born at the same time, same hospital, nearby beds, so their child is going to be same. So how is it that, their future is going to be different? And that was an interesting question. So what happens is, like every planet, every power, we have different attributes. So the weightage to be given among those attributes will undergo change based on the karma theory. So in astrology, especially if you want to do a good prediction, you should also be very familiar with the societal system and the karmic theory. Now, let's leave the karma theory for the time being and come to astrology. So first we do birth time rectification. Then very often what happens is people expect number of questions or number of things to be told, which is a very difficult. You should take one aspect at a time. For example, financial position, matrimonial, marriage life, or profession. Because even in this one thing which we want to analyze, there is a lot of depth you have to go in. So take for example, you have a query about profession. So after you got a chart, you should see for profession which houses are important. So focus on those houses, the lords of those houses, look at the karakatva of that and then analyze it. At that time you leave all the other things out. Because in astrology the problem is you have 12 rashis, then you convert them into bhavas, then you have so many nakshatras, and then you can see the combination and permutation which is going to give you so many options. So focus on the aspect which you are going to basically analyze. And after you have identified those houses, look at PAC concept, that is position, aspect, conjunction, how it is there, how they are related. After you have done the PAC analysis, you go next step is look at the aspects. Now in aspects, you are all familiar, we have 7,000 aspect for everybody, and then we have some special aspect for Mars, Jupiter and Saturn. So after looking at those things, you will have to move further and then look at the Dasha system as to when it is going to happen. So Dasha comes next and you look at what is the most opportune time when this particular event is going to fructify. After Dasha system, you move further and look at Gochar, because your chart is with respect to a particular time of birth. And today's planetary position is also going to have an influence. So, for example, your Mukti Nirnaya and various other things which come in from the Gochar angle has also to be considered. And after even considering that, finally we look at yogas. What are the yogas which are going to be affecting that? And you come up with an inference. After looking at all that, the weighted average of all this is what you come up with an inference. Don't make a mistake of this inference to be announced. Always use one more method of astrology to cross-check. For example, having done this and inferring that this is what is likely to happen, please use another technique like Ashtagvarga or Gemini or any of the, even Nagi, and say that whether you are getting similar results or not. And then only you announce. Just on the basis of your one exercise, going ahead and announcing is going to be causing problem. And all this exercise, after having done, please bring in the societal angle into this. Where is this native from? What are the kinds of environment in which he or she is living? And then do some adaptation of that before you are going to convey that. So if you incorporate these, I am sure you will be able to get much better results, more success. If you purely go by astrology, irrespective of who that person is, just look at the chart and do the prediction, then always there are going to be a lot of pitfalls. So this in a nutshell I just wanted to give a broad brush picture of following a systematic approach, doing at least 2 methods to come up with a thing, and be aware that there are some shortfalls and exception situations in our astrology. So, friends, enjoy astrology. It's a very interesting subject and very absorbing subject. And in future, you please see that you cross-check your results. Thank you very much.